Here is every vinyl I have, my thoughts on them, and what vinyls I plan on buying next. The first two vinyls I ever got were last December as an early Christmas gift from my parents in Canada. We drove all the way to downtown Toronto, got stuck in traffic and nearly crashed in a tunnel, just to get to what we thought was the only vinyl shop in the area. We were about 5 minutes away from the real nearest one, thanks Google Maps. The first of two purchases was The Queen is Dead by the Smiths. It's not an exaggeration to say that this album changed my life. I went from being an NF Alec Benjamin and 5 Seconds of Summer fan who had just found and began liking Pinkerton to obsessing over a band like I'd never done before. I distinctly recall the first time I heard it and the Smiths in general. I sat there watching The Chase when a question came up asking who Morrissey was. My dad answered correctly and we began chatting about him and his band who my dad never got into. A series of coincidences began to unfold when I reread Ready Player 2, where one of the main character's favorite song ever was There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. I thought it strange that I hadn't noticed that or listened to it out of interest, so I decided to give the album a shot. I thought the album was alright and found joy in Vicar in a Tutu, but pushed it aside for a while. After health issues and life generally feeling challenging, There Is a Light That Never Goes Out emerged through my speakers during a particularly vulnerable period. It felt a bit too spontaneous that a song I'd heard once and hadn't added to a playlist came on and matched my whole state. That night, coming home from the ER, I ran a bath, put The Queen is Dead on, and will never love a band more than I do the Smiths. The second pickup on our outing was Black Gives Way to Blue by Alice in Chains. I don't have nearly as strong a connection to this album, but it really sparked my love for late era Alice in Chains and helped me realize how much I prefer it. Jerry Cantrell's riffs are as incredible as ever, and while the band's earlier lyrics reflected their own issues, dedicating a majority of the record to Lane is unbelievably moving. Your Decision and the title track ignite something inside of me, creating a deep admiration and appreciation for heavy instrumentation with meaningful writing. Continuing the North American experience, in Tennessee I got 3 vinyls as Christmas gifts. We can skim over Deftones self-titled because I don't enjoy this album that much, although Minerva and Good Morning Beautiful are great songs. It's the only vinyl that has a nice color to it, I guess. Following the stupid decision I made to ask for Deftones, Doolittle was the soundtrack for our holiday in the States and Canada. Let's do a bit of story time though. As you can probably tell from my videos, I am a highly intelligent being. So the night before we flew to Canada, I thought pulling an all-nighter would be a good idea. Me and my best friend Michael played Fortnite from 8 PM till we left for the airport at 10 AM. I'd already been up for over a day, and considering the fact that our flight was nearly an entire 24 hours in itself, I thought I was cash money. We got on the plane and I could not fall asleep. I tried literally everything. I watched the Lorax, I read, I listened to Master of Puppets and Loveless. Nothing would work. An African lady that was sitting behind me was having the best sleep of her life and ended up with her hands over my seat and playing with my hair, so I don't even know what happened there. Eventually we landed in Vancouver and it's about 2 days without sleeping now. I had a few hallucinations, including thinking someone's suitcase was a Goomba, but our plane got delayed by hours and I was still struggling. On our flight from Vancouver to Toronto, I watched Avatar 2 and still couldn't get sleep. We took a long drive to our Airbnb and after nearly 3 days without sleeping, I went to bed and woke up 15 hours later. I know it seems like I'm ranting, trust me, I am, but this is very important to the Jesse vinyl lore. Obviously, I got insanely sick due to sleep deprivation. My eyes were the color of blood and I had to wear John Lennon sunglasses just to be able to see through the brightness of daytime. Look, here's me looking like Ozzy Osbourne. Another great thing about our trip was the Airbnb had no hot water, and this is literally Canada in December. So my memories of this vacation revolve around being sick, missing an Always concert, Doolittle keeping me sane while showering in ice cold water, and my aunt and uncle buying me Doolittle when we finally got to America. I guess you could say I'm chained to this album. Sorry. My final Christmas present that I knew of was Abbey Road from my granddad. I grew up on the Beatles' Blue and Red compilations thanks to my father, and although I drifted from the Fab Four fandom for a few years, there's still a band that means the world to me. This band is super special, and in 2017 I went to a lot of the Liverpudlian and Beatle landmarks like Strawberry Fields, Cavern Club, Magical Mystery Tour, etc. Liverpool is still one of my favorite cities, has my favorite football club, and my dad's all-time band. I remember when I was younger, every night before I went to sleep, my dad and I would listen to a Beatles song. Most of the time, it'd end up being Mean Mr. Mustard, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or I Am the Walrus. So these fond memories really add to my love for the band.
Mean Mr. Mustard sleeps in the bar, shaves in the dark.
As I arrived from USA back to New Zealand, my brother sent me money for Christmas. Naturally, I went straight to my local store, which is still 40 minutes away because Auckland, and bought 2 LPs. The first is one of 2 favorite Bowie records. Funny thing about this purchase is if you know me, you'd quickly discover I hate secondhand things. I'm not a person who says the word hate lightly. The only 2 things on earth I actually hate is wind and used items. Well, maybe I should have realized a fresh, scary monsters and super creeps would not be $20. My mom and dad saw yet didn't inform me with the hopes that I'd leave with no notice. After exploring my wants, I came up with what I consider an overhated masterpiece in post-Human Nex Gen by Bring Me the Horizon. The continuous concept from survival horror into this album shows clear character and creative genius. Blending synth work with aggressive instrumentation make for an album much better than it honestly should be. This ended up being my most expensive vinyl at $103, but the art alone is worth it. We leave the store, and as we're walking up the street to the car park, I discover the huge, and I mean huge, front text screaming secondhand. If I'm being real, I still don't like picking up this vinyl. My birthday rolls around on February 27, and my other brother buys me what is probably one of the most stunning vinyls of the decade. From the moment we heard Imaginal Disc whilst driving to the beach, Magdalena Bay became one of my favorite bands. This duo crept up on me, being someone who finds most pop drab and derivative. How was I to imagine their debut album was superior? Mercurial World has a never-ending variety of fusions and genre bending, psychedelic soundscapes with catchy, irresistible melodies, and Hysterical Us might be the best pop song ever. I love how instead of shifting attention from lyrical content to the music itself, Magbay balance both equally and mesh poeticism with grabbing instances as well as incredibly diverse vocal performances. This record manages sequencing and pacing magnificently. With its overproduced style, they sneak in a noise pop masterclass in You Lose, which starts as a subtle, intriguing dance song and explodes into an atmospheric, sparkly, fun, funky frenzy. Guys, I have a really good joke, trust me. So since Matt and Mika are both Jewish, and a duo, does that make them a duo?
Oh my god! Oh jeez! Oh my god! Oh, jeez.
Oh my word. The final vinyl I can't stop laughing at final vinyl for some reason. The final vinyl I bought with more birthday money is a Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. To me, this is the best electronic pop album ever, meshing elements from chamber music, ambient, and those pairing with Tom York's haunting vocals make for an unmissable transcendental experience.
This is if I were tasting medicine.
Moving on to records I need to buy, my current strategy is purchasing every album I enjoy from my favorite and most listened to musicians before I can buy multiple from the same band or singer. How haven't I mentioned this album on my channel? It's literally where I got the Jessinately May Bessie name, and it's probably the album that changed me most as a person. Not only did it influence my constant alliteration usage, but it also inspired me, along with Morrissey, to dress like a lesbian. Definitely Maybe is such a phenomenal album that it led the way for the entire British rock and Britpop to come. Sarcasm is ever present, like on Married with Children, a song that has one of the most satisfying guitar tones ever, or nonsensical storytelling that I use in my writing seen on Supersonic. Unfortunately, you have a higher chance of finding My Best Friend's Dad than my favorite album on vinyl.
It's not looking good, Bev. It's not looking good.
The Natural Bridge looks precisely how it plays, a rainy midnight drive that pairs minimal musical elements with melancholic poetry and outlandish, sudden humor. This album gets played almost daily in my house, and even after 6 months of loving it, it never loses its magic. Even though the Smiths are and forever will be my favorite band, The Natural Bridge is to me the greatest piece of art ever created.
Boy wants a car from his dad. Dad says, first you gotta cut that hair. Boy says, hey Dad, Jesus had long hair. And Dad says, that's right son, Jesus walked everywhere.
I feel like the white boy final boss right now with such a lack of jazz and hip-hop. The greatest hip-hop album ever is The Low End Theory, and I don't think it's debatable. It's a perfect set of songs, and Q-Tip is way too overlooked when it comes to top 5 conversations. He makes every verse effortless. Sometimes I think the jazz flavors of this record do go overstated. The hints are obvious, but it isn't as direct as on their later releases. 444 by Jay-Z is my go-to for introspective hip-hop. It's like finally feeling comfortable in your own skin, and Jay's lyrics are real and regretful, adding a relatable authenticity. The unmatched production and fantastic features only elevate the excellence. I have a much more difficult time deciding my GOAT for jazz. Is it In a Silent Way by Miles Davis? Thrust by Herbie Hancock? A few months ago, I would have easily said Miles was my GOAT, but Herbie's experimentalism was so ahead of its time that even when it sounds horribly chaotic, it's unbelievably good. Your patience is commendable. You sat through the entire video of me making horrible jokes and telling stupid stories, and still finished it. Well done. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so I don't have to get a job. Leave a like, comment below, and God bless you.